Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries.
A young man is mesmerized by a beautiful girl and begins a torrid relationship. Within a month, his body is found burning in a vacant lot. Did a brief love affair culminate in murder? According to police, this cunning con artist coolly walked out of an Alabama bank with a small fortune and never looked back. But this was no ordinary bank heist. It was a crime that took meticulous planning and daring execution. Today, he's still on the lam, and he may be in your community. $500,000 vanishes from 8 automated teller machines in Indiana. So does the courier responsible for tending them. Was she a thief or the victim of a shadowy figure who forced her to do his bidding? A woman sets out to find the family she hasn't seen in over 45 years. That search triggers shocking memories of her violent and secret past. Join me for these intriguing cases and more on Unsolved Mysteries. A fire blazes on a vacant lot outside of Chicago. Smoldering deep in the flames is a scorched body wrapped in a partially burned tarp and bedsheet. The victim? A 22-year-old man with nothing in his background to suggest such a violent end. Oscar Velasquez. At the county morgue, Oscar's parents are faced with the most difficult task of their life: identifying the remains of their eldest son.
I never thought we would find him there. He was a good kid. He never got into trouble. He didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He was different from the other kids in the neighborhood.
Growing up, Oscar Velasquez had managed to avoid the gangs that infested his neighborhood. He was well respected in the community and had a steady job as a truck driver. Oscar had also recently begun a new relationship with an attractive 18-year-old brunette. Her name, Regina DeFrancisco.
Mrs. DeFrancisco, would you have a seat, please, and your daughter?
Investigators soon discover a troubling coincidence. 2 days after Oscar's body was found, Regina's mother and 16-year-old sister Margaret file a missing persons report for Regina DeFrancisco.
She's been gone for 2 days.
Has she ever taken off before?
No.
So this is the first time?
4 days after the discovery of Oscar's body, the same detectives who were investigating his murder visited the house of the missing Regina DeFrancisco. While searching her home for any clues related to the teenager's disappearance, investigators made a startling discovery that linked Regina to the murder of Oscar Velasquez.
Lo and behold, to our surprise, there was the matching pillowcases to the sheet that was used to wrap Oscar's body up in. And that's when our focus of our investigation switched to Regina herself.
As police sought to solve the murder of Oscar Velasquez, they were soon confronted with a tangled web of sexual fantasy and homicidal impulse. At the center is a strikingly attractive teenage girl whom police believe lured Oscar to his death. But why? Authorities are convinced that Regina DeFrancisco knows the answer, and they're asking for your help to find her.
Hey, Oscar.
Oh, hey.
What up?
By all accounts, Oscar Velasquez lived a stable life. But that all apparently changed when he set eyes on Regina DeFrancisco.
You look beautiful, too.
Thank you.
Oscar thought She looked like a nice girl. In the short period of time, approximately 3 weeks, they only had maybe 3 or 4 dates. Oscar and Regina seemed to hit it off, and I think Oscar was blinded by Regina's good looks.
But below the alluring surface, a storm was brewing. Regina apparently had another boyfriend, a gang member nicknamed Loco, and she needed $1,000 to bail him out of jail. According to police, Regina decided to get the money from Oscar Velasquez, and she allegedly enlisted her sister Margaret in the scheme. Detectives believe Margaret told Oscar that it was Regina who was in jail and needed to be bailed out.
Can you get us the money?
I got $1,000. Is that enough?
Oscar, being the loyal and true boyfriend that he thought he was,
I'll get it back to you, I promise.
didn't hesitate at all.
Thank you.
Oscar gives Margaret the $1,000. Margaret tells Oscar as soon as she bails Regina out of jail, that Regina will call him.
Regina did call Oscar, and the two went out on another date.
Thank you so much, baby, for helping me.
It's all right. You know I love you.
You do?
I'll do anything for you.
Oscar allegedly asked Regina when she would pay him back the $1,000. According to police, her answer laid the foundation for Oscar's death.
Baby, I don't have the money right now. I just got out of jail.
Regina says, hey, I'm sorry. I'm willing to pay you back, give you a little extra. Margaret really likes you too. How about coming over and I'll give you your money and the three of us will have a little fun.
Are you serious?
And that's when Regina offered the threesome, the sexual encounter, and Oscar was pretty willing to turn around and oblige.
According to witnesses, Oscar arrived at the DeFrancisco home at around 8 o'clock. He was greeted at the door by Margaret.
Hi.
What are you doing here?
I don't know.
Regina's downstairs waiting for you.
Oh.
Allegedly, a friend of the DeFrancisco sisters was also at the house, and waiting downstairs in the basement was Regina.
Oscar! Come down here, baby. I'm in the basement.
Oscar went ahead of Margaret, walked down the steps, and when he made it to the last step in the basement, Margaret took the semi-automatic, shot him one time in the back of the head.
Come on, let's go.
Investigators believe that the girls took Oscar's necklace, his car keys, and $600 in cash. Next, they wrapped the body in a bed sheet and then a tarp. According to the police, the sisters did what they could to clean up the crime scene. And finally, they dragged the body up the basement stairs and reportedly put it into the trunk of Oscar's car.
Then they drive around, I'd say for approximately 40 minutes, looking for a spot to dump the body, until they happened upon this vacant lot. Regina and Margaret try to get Oscar's body out of the trunk. Body gets dumped out into the lot. One of the girls take a large bottle of nail polish remover, doused Oscar's body. They ignite the body.
Get back.
And drive away.
Get in.
2 days later, police discovered Oscar's Camaro not far from where his remains were found. It, too, had been torched. It wasn't long before the case broke wide open. The young girl who was allegedly at the home at the time of the crime confessed to police. She gave a detailed account of what she witnessed on the night of Oscar's murder.
Come on, let's go.
Arrest warrants were issued for Regina and Margaret DeFrancisco. Both are believed to have fled the Chicago area. As Maria Velasquez waits for justice, she struggles with a painful void left in her life by her son Oscar's murder.
Every day is a labor because I'm still looking for him. I see young people, and I'm always hoping that I see him, but I can't find him. It's hard to get used to living without him. It's really hard to get used to the idea that he isn't here anymore. We miss him a lot, all of us.
The bank should be right around the corner, right up here.
All right, well...
When Brent Trouth of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, decided to sell his Nissan sports car, he found a ready buyer in John Maggio.
You took nice care of it. Really nice care of it.
All Maggio needed to seal the deal was a cashier's check. Brent agreed to drive him to the bank. During the short trip, the conversation was light and friendly.
Yeah, and the bank should be right over here.
Then, without warning, it turned ugly.
Whoa! Whoa!
Brent suddenly found himself on the wrong end of a gun, fighting for his life.
He had the meanest look on his face, cold-blooded killer.
Go the gun!
He pulled the gun to the right, and it went on the side of my leg. The bullet went on the side of my leg and came out on the corner by my kneecap. And that's when I bit him on the shoulder. And he let go of the gun, and I threw the gun out the car.
Stop the car! I'm not stop nothing! I said stop the car!
Maggio then dove out the passenger side door, while Brent Trouth drove himself to the hospital. Brent nearly lost his leg, but later recovered. The next day, police tracked down Maggio and made the arrest.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna be up by tomorrow.
To those who knew him, it came as no big surprise. Maggio had been a rebellious teen, constantly at odds with his wealthy father, who owned a real estate empire in and around Baton Rouge. Con artist John Maggio was much smarter than the average street criminal. Charged with attempted murder and facing overwhelming evidence, Maggio plea bargained his way to a reduced sentence of 5 years. He then arranged to pull a work detail outside prison grounds, ironically at the offices of the Louisiana State Police. But allegedly, Maggio's biggest con was yet to come. John Maggio did his time and was released on parole. He immediately left for Mobile, Alabama, where family connections helped land him a position as boarding agent at Fillette Green Shipping Services. In a characteristic display of bravado, Maggio listed the prison job on his resume, failing, of course, to mention he was behind bars at the time.
Morning, Denise.
Good morning, John.
How are you today?
Maggio's new job involved processing payroll accounts for ships and dock, a service that often involved sizable amounts of cash. It was another ironic twist, an ex-con with his hands on the checkbook.
The owners of the vessel would wire us the money that the captain requested, and then we would make out the receipts, bring the cash down to the captain. He would sit there and count it out and then sign the receipt, and you'd be done.
John fit in right away and got along well with everybody.
We just went overboard to be nice. He was just super. He was outgoing. When you talked to him, you felt like you'd known him forever. That's just how he made you feel.
Molly Perez was certainly taken by Maggio's charms.
Want to sit here?
Following a short whirlwind romance, the couple decided to tie the knot.
A couple of them had to work, and they could have hit traffic, but I'm sure my aunt will show up.
It's still early.
It is early.
Molly had a 4-year-old daughter from a previous marriage. Maggio appeared to love her like his own. But according to Molly's mother, the relationship was stormy and sometimes violent.
Molly never told me that he was abusive. but her daughter did. And at that time, her daughter had just turned 4, and she was terrified of John. Terrified.
No, we haven't made any
In front of us, he acted like the doting stepfather, but when he was away from us, it was a different story.
It turned out Maggio had a lot of people fooled,
Hi, this is John.
but no one could have guessed what he was really up to. An alleged scam that was as brazen as it was risky, to the tune of nearly $200,000.
$2,000.
According to police, it all began with a phone conversation between Maggio and a local bank officer, who asked not to be identified.
All right, thanks.
He called to inquire how long it would take me to get $197,000. You know, and I told him I need to know by Tuesday to have it in by towards the end of the week.
Sometime over the next few days, police believe Maggio snuck back into the office after hours, unlocked a filing cabinet, and walked out with a blank check.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Miss Henderson.
He showed up at the bank on Thursday morning right on cue, with a check for $197,000, apparently authorized by the office manager. The amount was unusually large, but otherwise everything seemed to be in order.
It was a well-established account. He was a well-known person to be, responsible for picking up and calling in the orders, and the signature was a match.
According to the bank officer, Maggio was friendly, but uncharacteristically on edge.
Sure is a lot of money.
This was the largest amount that they had ever gotten in one period, and he told me that one of their couriers for the company in New Orleans had been killed doing a drop such as this, and so he was a little nervous.
I can get you an escort if you like. We can have someone walk you out.
No, that won't be necessary. I mean, just you and I know about this transaction, right?
Right?
Moments later, police say Maggio calmly walked out of the bank in Mobile, Alabama, and simply disappeared.
Fillette Green Shipping.
The next day, Denise McDonald received a disturbing phone call from the home office in New Orleans.
The accountant that manages all the money, he asked me if we had written any big checks, and of course I said no. So he said, look for this check number. So I went and looked, and the check was missing. So I went back to the phone and I said, yes, the check is gone. And I said, how much money is gone? And he said, $197,000. And I said, God, you're kidding.
Investigators learned that the authorized signature on the check was a forgery. Meanwhile, Molly left her little girl with her mother and prepared to leave town.
Molly left with John because she was protecting us and her daughter, because I know now that Molly knew just how evil he was and is. But what Molly didn't realize was we'd have done anything to protect her. Anything.
Police say Molly left with Maggio in a new $35,000 SUV, which he had allegedly purchased with some of the stolen money.
So the place has been vacant for about 6 weeks. It's ready to be rented out at any time.
4 months later, the couple reportedly turned up in Staten Island, New York.
I don't think we need to see much more of it. I mean, we love it, right? I love it.
Using the names Rick and Sarah Parker, they rented an apartment from Nanette, Conill.
$15 a month, right?
Molly and Maggio came off to be the sweetest people to everyone, not only to my husband and, myself and my family members, but to the neighbors as well.
Over the next year, Maggio bounced from one job to another before landing a sales position with a rare autograph dealer in Manhattan.
If y'all need some help, just let me know.
But it wasn't long before he was up to his old tricks, allegedly gaining access to company checks, forging authorized signatures, and discreetly pocketing the funds. However, by the summer of 2001, Maggio's days in the Big Apple were numbered.
May I help you?
Yes, you may.
Maggio had attempted to cash a $1,500 check.
Hey, y'all.
And the place where he was trying to cash it contacted the employer, and he said no, he does not have the authority to cash a check in that amount.
I cash checks here all the time.
Sir, for this amount, I need an authorization.
Maggio never showed back up at that company. The individual had an audit done of his records and determined that Maggio, on 14 different occasions, had written $1,000 checks, which were forged and which were basically embezzlements from the company.
By the time police were notified, it was too late. Maggio and Molly were already on the run.
Early in the morning, it must have been like 6:30 in the morning, I suddenly get a phone call from Maggio.
Hello? Hey there, Nanette, it's Rick.
And he was like, oh, I'm taking Molly to the hospital. She's very sick. I'm leaving the dog papers. Watch the dog. I left the key underneath the mat.
Nanette was surprised and concerned for Molly. But before she had a chance to ask any questions, Maggio had hung up the phone.
I'll give you a call later. Bye.
Right there, all the cards started falling right into place. Something is very fishy.
Sarah!
Suspicious, Nanette went down to check on her tenants. The apartment was trashed. John Maggio and his wife had simply vanished. Detectives later discovered that Molly had purchased 2 airline tickets for a flight from New York to Los Angeles. But there have been no reported sightings on the West Coast. So where are they now? That's what the FBI would like to know. Molly has not contacted her daughter since leaving Alabama in the summer of 1999. Authorities believe they are probably using assumed names, and that John Maggio, wherever he is cooking up a scam.
He is what we would consider to be an armed and dangerous person because of the fact of his previous criminal record. In the past, remember, this individual almost killed another individual in order to steal a car. So there's no question, if he feels like he is in some jeopardy of having his freedom curtailed, he would more than likely engage in such conduct again.
Indiana, 4 a.m. Cynthia Wismiller's day begins. Already a grandmother at age 42, Cynthia is a free-spirited matriarch of a close family.
We drank coffee and talked for a while, and she kissed me goodbye, said she loved me and she'd see me later. Now that was probably the worst day of my life.
Bye, baby.
Cynthia is a courier for an armored vehicle service. Her job is to replenish automated teller machines with cash. At 5:50 a.m., Cynthia begins making her rounds of the ATMs on her route. Later that morning, she mysteriously disappears, along with $268,000 in cash. Was Cynthia, a former police officer and dedicated grandmother, a brazen thief? Or was the real thief lurking out of range of ATM surveillance cameras, forcing Cynthia to take the money before he killed her? Bank robber or victim? The police and Cynthia's family found themselves bitterly divided. On the surface, the evidence of her guilt seemed overwhelming. Yet detectives acknowledged it was odd for a woman with an unblemished past to commit such an audacious theft and then desert her loved ones. The only certainty was that no trace of Cynthia remained.
Oh, look at the sun.
Look at how beautiful.
Cynthia Wismiller was a nucleus around which her entire family revolved. Those who knew her best say she possessed a generous spirit and an unwavering sense of right and wrong. To suggest that she was capable of bank robbery was inconceivable.
My mother has taught me that it's very good to be good. You can't take more than you give. No one gets anything for nothing. She instilled that into us very early. For there even to be speculation that she would have done something like this or gone this direction or done anything to attempt to take the easy way out is just ludicrous. There's no way. No way in hell it would have happened.
Whatever did happen, say investigators, may have begun 3 days before the robbery.
Come on in, Cindy. Have a seat.
Cynthia's supervisor told her their security company had been bought by the Brinks Armored Car Service and that she was to have a new position.
There'll be some changes, and I'll fill you in on that next week. But because of time constraints right now, I just want to cover one thing with you.
The following workday, she was to postpone her pre-dawn duties until 9 a.m. At that hour, she was to meet her replacement and acquaint him with her route.
Show him your routine, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So then am I giving up my job? Do I have a job?
As long as I still have a job, you still have a job.
Despite her instructions, Cynthia arose that morning just as early as she always had. According to her boyfriend, Billy, she never mentioned that her work schedule had been changed. Investigators say that between 5:50 and 7:15 a.m., Cynthia made stops at each of the 8 ATMs on her route. She began 3 hours earlier than she had been instructed and without her trainee. Each of the machines was virtually emptied of cash.
The ATMs had video cameras on them. Out of the 8 ATMs, we only found actual film footage of Cynthia Wismiller on one of the tapes. And throughout the entire time she was in that building, she was alone. It didn't appear that she was under any type of duress or force of any kind. Most of the ATMs that she serviced were exterior buildings. They were not actually in the bank branch. And she could get into the back of the ATMs without being seen on the video camera.
Okay, baby. John, you take him down to room 1.
Detectives began their investigation by questioning Cynthia's family and her boyfriend, Billy Hawkins.
Billy was adamant that Cynthia was abducted and that she did not take any money from the ATMs. And he also was adamant that someone has forced her to do this. Billy told me that there's no way she would have done this on her own.
If someone was holding a gun on her or had threatened her family or something, she would do something like this to protect her family or to protect her own life possibly, but there's nothing else on this earth that would make her do something like this without being coerced into it.
Was someone else present at the ATMs who forced Cynthia to steal the money? Or was such a person merely conjured up in the imagination by those unable to face that Cynthia had turned to crime? Investigators discovered an eyewitness who said that Cynthia indeed was not alone, but his account only deepened the mystery.
The witness said that he saw Cynthia with another person. He saw Cynthia and this other person unloading bags and putting them into another vehicle. He said this person had a sock hat pulled down to the lower part of their face. So he could not tell if this person was white, black, or male or female.
According to the witness, Cynthia did not appear to be assisting the mysterious figure against her will. The police concluded she had a partner in crime. But her family believed that this was a person who forced her to steal the cash from the ATMs on her route.
They knew exactly where she was going. They knew what she was doing. It was an obvious vehicle. She was by herself. I think that someone came, they took advantage of a situation, and and they did what they felt was necessary in getting the money from these machines. That's what I think happened.
Investigators learned that if Cynthia was an unwilling accomplice, she had the means to secretly alert her security firm. To open an ATM, couriers must enter a code that changes daily. A distress signal is sent by altering one of the digits. But Sydney did not enter the distress code at any of her machines. It is possible, however, that she was warned not to by one who was aware of how the security measure functioned. But as the investigation of Cynthia Wismiller progressed, the police made a discovery that seemed to erase whatever doubts remained. An audit revealed an additional $200,000 was missing. Cash that Cynthia was supposed to have placed in her ATMs more than a week before the robbery.
I think she was dipping in the till a little bit to help her family out. When she was informed that Brink Security was taking over the company, she knew she was going to be caught when they did the audits. And I think she just took as much money as she could and fled the area. We, as a police department, want to find her because she stole the money, but we also want to find her to make sure she's safe. We have the fact of another person being with her in the parking lot. If it was a plan that those two were going to take the money and split it and disappear, who's to say that that other person isn't going to harm Cynthia so that that person could get all of the money and not have to split it?
Despite the evidence pointing to Cynthia's guilt, her family still firmly believes she is a victim, not a criminal.
We don't believe for a minute she did anything wrong. She just wasn't that kind of person. It just wasn't her.
Whatever the truth, the void of her absence has taken its toll.
It's just like somebody just ripped your world apart and you don't know where to go. You don't know anything. You're just completely blind and your mind is blank and you can't function.
It's been tremendously difficult and continues to be, and I don't see it letting up anytime soon.
It was a winter of 1960, and 4-year-old Lori Delorme had just been adopted by a family in Chillicothe, Missouri. One evening, Lori stumbles upon her adoptive father cleaning a gun. Disturbing feelings flood into her mind, giving Lori the first horrific glimpse at the dark secret that ripped her birth family apart.
When I was very little, my adopted dad, he collected guns. And he was cleaning one of his guns. And I saw that, and I just said, that's what the policemen had when they come to get my daddy.
Unable to fully grasp what she was remembering, Lori vowed to discover the truth. Her search would trigger ominous memories of a fateful night over 4 decades ago. A policeman holding a gun to her father and putting him under arrest. That vague and fleeting memory somehow explains why Lori Delorme Magnin was separated from her biological family at 14 months of age. Lori now hopes to find the only people who can help her understand what exactly happened to her as an infant, a family she hasn't seen in over 45 years. At the age of 3, Lori was adopted by Charles and Retha Delorme in Kansas City, Missouri. But the Jackson County Court sealed Lori's records and would only tell her adoptive parents that she was in need of a stable home. Although Lori was welcomed into the extended Delorme family with open arms, signs soon emerged that something wasn't right. Lori began having nightmares and appeared distant and distracted.
Lori was probably about 6 or 7,
And she was eating at the table one day and she couldn't close her mouth. She would just leave her mouth open. And it really scared Mother, so she made an appointment with a therapist in another town and took her there. And they said that she had had a serious trauma and that it happened when she was fairly young.
Lori's adoptive mother tried in vain to find out what was wrong with her little girl. As Lori grew older, she took up the search herself, driven by a troubling sense that something dire had happened in her past. Lori asked her mother for any paperwork concerning her adoption.
I turned 16 and she brought the adoption papers out. She kept every letter. And I'm gonna give this to you. Now's the time. And so I took them, I went over to Renee's house.
I couldn't wait till she got there because we always had this dream we were gonna find her mom. And so when she came, we got up on the bunk bed and she opened up the papers, and that's when we found out that her mom was already dead.
Lori and Renee were shocked to discover that Lori's mother, Frances Camarena, died on November 27, 1956 in Kansas City, Missouri. The adoption papers did not give a cause of death nor mention any other siblings.
And we were like, oh my goodness. And Renee, we was like, well, we're just going to try to find somebody here. And it didn't, we didn't know where to go, we were too young.
Lori soon moved on with her life, married, and had 3 children of her own. But her happiness was always haunted by hazy memories of an unbearable tragedy. There was only one hope for her peace of mind. Lori had to know the truth. There was still one last place Lori had not yet looked, the Kansas City Public Library. Lori, her husband Donald, and their son searched the microfiche files of the Kansas City Star on the day Lori's mother died, November 27, 1956.
Okay, here we go.
Slow down.
Okay.
I was scanning through the old papers and I came across this picture of 4 girls and a boy, and one of them was about Lori's age, would have been Lori's age, and I said, Lori, could this possibly be your family? I said, this looks awful lot like you, the next to youngest one. And she looked at the picture and she said, yeah, that's me.
In the photo, a 14-month-old Lori sat next to her 4 siblings who ranged in age from 9 years to 3 months.
That's when I first time saw the picture of me and my brother and my sisters. First time, my first baby picture I ever seen.
But Lori's joy was short-lived. Seconds later, she saw the article accompanying the photo. Lori Delorme Magnin had finally come face to face with the horrifying truth of her past.
My beautiful baby.
In the pre-dawn hours of November 26, 1956, Lori's father, Alexander Camarena, arrived home drunk. His wife, Lori's mother, was waiting for him.
Landlady was here for the rent. Where are you buying me chocolate?
Forget about the
How are we
rent.
gonna pay
Forget
the
about the rent.
Alexander had made 2 purchases earlier in the evening: a box of chocolates and a .38 caliber handgun.
Can you please spend our money on a gun?
An argument ensued over the gun. Alexander claimed it was broken and demonstrated by pointing the weapon at his wife's head.
No! Stop!
When I read that, I felt against my father. It's like, I don't care if he says he's sorry and all that. You just don't point a gun at someone's temple. I don't care. And that was my mom. And I won't ever see her again.
Lori made a copy of the photo and took it home with her.
I just went to the bedroom, took that picture with me, and I just stared at it. I just couldn't believe it. You know, I mean, that's me, my brother, my sisters, and we all look alike. We had the dark hair and that. And the oldest girl, she's like looking off in a direction. She just looked so sad because she was old, you know, old enough to remember.
Lori's mother, Frances Camarena, is buried under her maiden name of Rivas in a cemetery in Kansas City.
Here you are, Mommy. Just for you.
Lori's father was convicted of second-degree murder and imprisoned for 8 years. He died in 1991.
My brother and my sisters, real brother and sisters. We lost both our parents now, and I think they need me like I need them. And they may have their own families now like I do, but like I feel they must want to see me if they think about me. I don't know if they tried to find me, but I'm trying.
Shortly after our broadcast, Ruth Crook, Lori's birth cousin, contacted our telecenter. A friend of Ruth's had seen the show and told her that her long-lost cousin was looking for her birth family.
It was a happy shock and very exciting to know that she had been found.
A family reunion was held several weeks later, and we were there to capture it. The elder sister, Phyllis, was unable to attend the reunion. Sadly, Lori's younger brother, Robert, died in 1982. Nancy, the last sibling, was located after the reunion was held. Join me next time for another hour of fascinating cases on Unsolved Mysteries.